Italian Design Day 2019 was held on March 20th. The event provided valuable chances to promote Italian design in Korea and discuss both Korean and Italian design in depth. For this particular event, Davide Fassi, a professor at Design Department at the Politecnico di Milano, visited Korea to hold a lecture on the theme of Design for Commons Regeneration. What motivated you to begin this project?
This idea of public space could be expanded, something that is bigger.
Professor Fassi is receiving attention with his unique projects on spatial design.
A European-funded project, collaborating with other partners around Europe.
He is consistently challenging himself with his wide-ranging activities. Authoring a book is just one example. Last year, he received the award, the 25th Compasso d'Oro, with his project, Campus, Incubation and Settings for Social Practices. We shall now enter the world of Italian design with Professor Davide Fassi, the designer of living space, in the lead. Welcome to Korea and, of course, to Heart, Davide. I'd like to, first of all, begin by asking you about your impression of Korea. I know you've been here prior. This was last year, and this is your second visit?
Yeah, it is. Thanks, Jennifer. I was here in September last year, so this is the second visit in Seoul. I'm amazed about this place. I mean, it's a city of the people.
Yes.
I can see a lot of public spaces for people and a lot of amazing walking path and the canal, and very good impression.
I see that you pay extra attention to those locations,
Yeah.
those public areas. I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I'm going to have to ask you about your initial thought of the design of City Seoul. And since you're here to see it for yourself, has that impression changed? What is the design of Seoul like? Since you're here to see
I have
it for
to tell you
yourself?
that before coming here, I have my own idea about Korea. I mean, more related to tradition, but at the same time, innovation. I was expecting a mix of that, and that's what I found.
So I'd like to ask, what brings you to Korea this time around?
Yeah, this time it's for an interesting thing because the Ministry of Culture, Italian Ministry of Culture, is organizing. They started 3 years ago to organize the Italian Design Day. We are invited by the Italian Institute of Culture to be ambassador of Italian design in the world.
Yeah.
I was invited by the embassy here, so by the Italian Institute of Culture, and so in the last 2 days I gave 2 speeches about that. And the audience was really interactive. So I did a speech on one of my research topics, that is design for Commons Regeneration. And at the end of the speech, there were a lot of questions to talk about that, to know more about that. So I was pretty happy about that.
Do you remember perhaps the most, common questions? I mean, which questions were you asked by most people, of course?
Yeah, they were interesting in this idea to how to design public spaces or spaces for people. Because it seems that Seoul is a place where this kind of project is really interested by the people. And so they were asking me if even in Italy there is this kind of approach towards the quality of life of people in the urban context.
It's an idea of, I guess, improving the quality of life by, I guess, constructing or forming these areas for the public to kind of enjoy together?
Yeah, when I say commons, I mean I'm relating to all of those places that are public and shared by the people.
I see.
Doesn't mean only squares or streets or sidewalks, but even forestry, river, lakes, the air is a common. I'm investigating a lot what is the relationship of design and these commons. And usually when you are talking about commons, you are talking about people,
Yes.
how they are interacting with that, and how they are reclaiming even that.
Okay, so as you've mentioned, design for commons regeneration. For, of course, myself, and to help our viewers get a grasp of the idea, we have prepared some photos. So let's take a look at that, and then could you please explain to us more in detail? Okay, let's take a look.
In this picture, I mean, you can see one of the potential common. This is the green area. It's a public green area. Those places in which you can cross, you can use it, you can manage it and govern it. There are all those natural or artificial resources that are not belonging to the private realm, but they are belonging to the public one.
I see.
Yeah.
So you're kind of creating a sense of community and trying to connect people?
Sure, because most of the time when you're taking care of a common, you can't do by yourself. I mean, usually, I mean, you are doing with other people, and you can develop the sense of belonging to a place with the other people. And to do that, the design as a role, because as you may see here, you can see lots of activities that as designer we can do, like co-design activities, engaging people in the field activities, prototyping solution, so triggering and enabling the people to make things happen.
So it's not only about designing the space itself, but you're designing things that actually can go into that space and fill that space as well.
Usually design is considered as a tangible things like furniture or tables or whatever. But nowadays, I mean, design is wider, and so there are even some not tangible features that you can design.
Yes.
So in this case, for instance, this is a community garden that we have developed in our campus of Politecnico in Milan. You can see here there are some artifacts, like some objects, like these garden beds.
Yes.
That was the results of a project by students. But there are even rules and strategies and the way in which you can use this space. So how can gather people together to manage this place, the rules to get the vegetable from the garden beds and whatever. This was quite interesting because we spent a couple of years to do it, and we involved kind of 1,500 citizens throughout these 2 years to do it,
So it seems as though, I mean, you pay detailed, calculative attention to every detail of these spaces. I'd like to ask about the process. Could you tell us in more detail about the whole process?
Yeah. We, as a research team, I mean, we used to have our approach to this kind of project. Usually, there are 4 categories of people who are working around this project. We, as researchers, are professors, students that are developers and prototypers of the solution. We got citizens that are beneficiaries and at the same time activists in the urban context. And then we can have even the companies or public institutions that are endorsers or promoters of this or sponsors of this solution. We used to be very in the field. So I get enough of doing beautiful drawings in the classroom and just be put on the table or on the wall. I would push students to go outside and to do things with people, because things are coming by them. And so it's no more designing for them, but it's designing with them.
I see.
So it's really a change of perspective. And in the urban context today, it's pretty interesting, because usually the cities were designed by viewing them on top, you know. But in this case, the view is on this side, on this 8. So from the highs and from the citizens' point of view.
What motivated you, or what drove you to actually begin this project, the Design for Commons Regeneration project?
Yeah, it was quite interesting, because once we started to work with people for some projects like the community garden we saw before, I started to understand that this idea of public space could be expanded. So it's not only the space itself, but it's again common. So it's something that is bigger. When you are living your everyday life, you are crossing different touch points that are related to this broader area. And so it was intriguing me to understand how, as designer, could improve the quality of life of people, their experiences, but not starting as a big master that know everything, but starting to understand their needs and working with them.
With everything comes success and failure.
Yeah.
So I'd like to ask you if there was a certain project. I mean, you've worked on many, many projects, but among the many projects that you've worked on so far, is there a specific project that you got most satisfaction from? And what about the contrary? Perhaps something that you felt that you lacked, and why?
Failure is a plus for me. I mean, when you fail, it means that you can do better, but it's a very interesting thing because you think about how to improve, how to implement. So for sure, I mean, the project that is in my heart is the very first one. It's Coltivando, this community garden that we open at the campus in Bovisa campus in the suburb area where we are with our campus in Milan. It was successful because it has been established several years ago, and nowadays it's a kind of, we could say, landmark of the neighborhood because most of people, they are coming and not only to work but even to see and to spend free time.
Right.
And there are some big failure and small failure. We can say that you have big failure when people you are working with are not reactive and not proactive. So it happens. So it could happen. It's not a tragedy. It's just a matter to rearrange the target and to rearrange the activities to do with them. It's part of the, let's say, part of a game. And so,
Right. Now, you are a professor at the Politecnico di Milano and also a member of the international coordination at DESIS Network. So I'd like to ask you to tell us about DESIS Lab. Tell us about this network.
Yeah, DESIS Network, it's a network of design for social innovation and sustainability. It was funded in 2008 by Ezio Manzini. He's a worldwide famous professor dealing with these social innovation issues. It is at the moment in 45, almost 50, because there are new labs, university around the world. The idea was to create a network of those people who are dealing with these issues. So those people who are dealing with design, but at the same time interacting with people and developing projects for social innovation and sustainability. And it's very active, so there are clusters of activities sharing different topics, so investigating a little bit these dynamics behind the sharing economy or collaborative services and in the spaces in the cities.
And could you also tell about the most recent project that you've worked on? I believe it was Human Cities?
Yeah, it is.
And also tell us about the challenges that you faced
Yeah.
while working on this project.
Yeah. Human Cities was a European-funded project under the Creative Europe fundings. You are collaborating with other partners around Europe. In this case, we were 12 partners in 12 different cities, developing projects for the cities, for the public space. The claim was challenging the city scale. So understanding how to develop projects at the micro level, so very punctual in the city, but at the same time how to scale up this project even in other contexts or being best practices for other territories, other areas. It was a project that was recently finished, and we did the final conference here in Seoul in last September with the Seoul Design Foundation.
And that's why you were here in Korea.
Yeah, with the Seoul Design Foundation, and we brought here all the results of the 12 different projects that we did in the 12 different cities, each one by their own. So we work in Milan, but then there was Cité du Design in Saint-Étienne, Graz in Austria, Bilbao in Spain, London, I mean, several places around Europe.
Oh, I see. With challenges come great opportunities and even benefits, advantages. So what would you say this project or any other project, a project brings with it? Advantages? What might they be? Benefits?
Yeah, you know, when you start to a project with some local groups of people or local association, you don't know what is the final output. You don't know at the beginning.
Right.
So I think that the challenge is that one. In this case, for instance, we work with a very abandoned area. It was a square, 10,000 square meters square, in front of a very interesting theater in the city of Milan. Managed by an association that was very active in the neighborhood. So we helped them by involving 10 different other stakeholders, so other associations that were working in the neighborhood, and we developed with them some solution to improve the quality of that place. At the end, we came out with this very big signal, enlightened signals, to give an identity to the place, so to give a name to the place, meaning to recognize the place as a place to be.
Right.
And so we end up with this collective workshop with more than 100 people, constructing with them this big signal to be put there. It's still there after 4 years. So
Nice. And hope it remains
Yeah,
there for
yeah.
many, many, many more years. Last year also received a very highly recognized Industrial Design Award. I'd like to ask you about Camp Us, capital US, Us, the 25th Compasso d'Oro award-winning project. Tell us what the award signifies, what receiving this award actually signifies.
It's a very important award in the Italian context, and I can say even internationally. It was founded in 1954, so it has even rooted in the design culture in Italy. I can say that in the last years, they open up more to other features of design. We were awarded last year with this project that is a project of social innovation. The award was given because we were able to make small changes in a neighborhood involving lots of people, so to have very good impact on that. In that case, the project Compass was Incubation and Settings for Social Practices. The idea was to use those best practices that we used to develop within our campus, to use them outside and to duplicate and replicate in the neighborhood context. And so we developed a web social TV, we developed different community gardens, itinerant pavilion that hosted activities from local association, more than 50 local association in a 3-month events that we did in the area, and then a sustainable economical model to let these projects last longer than the time of the project itself. So we were awarded. We were very happy about that. I mean, it's very good. It's kind of be recognized as a social innovation designer and not only as a product designer.
That's right. Although I said highly recognized, I would have to correct that and say it is the most recognized award, especially in the design field, of course. Now, not only have you worked on multiple projects, but you've also published books. In 2012, you published Temporary Urban Solutions, and again in 2017, In the Neighborhood. So I'd love to hear about these books. Could you give us an introduction?
Temporary Urban Solution was a book about how design solution for the city with a vision, how to create scenarios that are for short term, but could envision solution for long term. The book itself, starting from this idea and presented a collection of different examples all around the world about this approach. And usually this approach is done by collective of artists, designers, and architects. And they used to work with very poor material because with that material they could figure out different solutions.
I see.
And so you can let the people see how a place could be in the future.
Would you say that publishing books is also part of research?
It is.
I guess, yes, of course. So I'd like to ask you about the lecture that you give at the Politecnico di Milano.
It's perfect.
Different pronunciation, sorry.
It's perfect
Difficult.
Italian presentation, don't worry.
So what are your lectures usually based on or focused on?
I used to teach in interior and special design master classes and in product service system master class. So I used to teach how to set up solution in the spaces and how to improve experiences of people in these spaces. So the service components, both the tangible and the intangible part of design. So yeah, I deal with these two different design topics.
Yes. Now, where did you get your design inspirations from? Let's say when you first started, your work involving architecture, involving space, and has that changed now? Do you get inspiration from elsewhere now, or is it the same for you?
You know, when you start to design something, especially when you're freshly graduated, you are inspired by the big names, and so by the master of architecture. But then later, I discovered that my attention moved to the spontaneous design. I mean, that design that was not really designed by someone specifically,
I see.
but it's a result of a process that someone did it, but it's not important who, because the importance is the result. And so I was fascinated by that. So I was fascinated by those creative communities that are developing solutions for their life, and how this spontaneous design could be improved even with the skills and competencies that we as designers could have.
Now, when it comes to, I guess, design concepts, when we look at new concepts, of course, we see new concepts or new design concepts arising, and the older ones kind of transforming. So these design concepts change and change. How do you think that design concepts will change in the future? Or design itself will change? How will it change?
Honestly, I can't see a future that is without relationship with people. Let's say these future scenarios in which everyone is connecting only with himself, like with microchip in the air,
Yes.
Or something. To me, I mean, it's something that maybe it's not to take it for granted. I mean, I think that will be more than that. I think that in future, this idea to be together and to develop community feeling, sharing, be helped by the other, it's something that it's again emerging and could make the difference in future. And even design concepts have to go and follow that path.
I like that idea. Because it's true. I mean, we're seeing more people interacting with each other much more easily, but then again, we're physically apart from each other. We're not really there to interact with people together in a physical space. I'd also like to ask you my final question, which happens to be about the projects. What kinds of projects? Is there a project that you have in mind that you want to challenge yourself with? And could you also tell us about your future goals?
Yeah, there are a couple of things that are in my mind for future. The first one is to try to follow up this idea of go beyond the borders of the campus. We are starting to think about a living lab in the neighborhood. So kind of research center that is not inside the university, but is physically in some neighbors that are in need of advices, help in developing solution, boosting some innovation, working with the association to develop projects. So this is something that we are working on.
And that would be a part of your future goals as well. Yes.
Yeah.
I'd like to thank you so much for spending time with me, sitting here
Thanks for the
on Heart to
invitation.
Heart. And yes, it was a very interesting conversation, and I am excited to see more of these designs that involve space and people and connecting people. I'd like to see more interaction. Best of luck to you. And thank you once again for joining
Thanks
us
for the
today.
invitation. Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you.